The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Riv, and...
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Well...
Everyone's Irish today. Everyone's Irish.
Not me. Not me.
Well, you don't know what the hell you are.
I'm not Irish. You know, I don't claim to be Irish. I don't claim things I'm not. I am not, just for... You know, but they did get a special dispensation for their alcohol license.
Yes, they did.
Even though they didn't.
Yep.
Because somebody called them that they were going to serve alcohol without it. But then again, because they're Irish, and somebody made a phone call and got a favor, they had an emergency meeting to give them their beer license. If it was you or I, it'd be, you didn't get a license.
That's right, because the licensing board meets next week.
That's
on the 20th.
right. The licensing board didn't meet, but they met specially for that.
Yeah, I guess
you
so.
know, I guess. But they already got a special dispensation for the meat they're reading. I love it when rules are malleable. The politicians love that. We only obey the law, like Paul said, we're going to follow the law. I heard he said we're going to follow the law on that Supreme Court decision that you can't stop people from talking, even though you don't like what they're saying. I hope he remembers that the next time Kevin Aguiar asks for information, or Michelle Dion does.
Right.
So
again, or Colin Dias does.
Or Colin Dias, or anybody. You know, I mean, what the hell? It's only the First Amendment.
That's right.
Why should anybody actually uphold the Constitution, even though when they get sworn in, they swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and
they
of the
swear,
Commonwealth.
but I wonder.
They swear a lot, but they don't. You know, it's not in good faith. But while we're on the subject of we have a discretionary society here that certain people have a certain set of rules that they abide by or don't abide by. They can do anything they want fundamentally. There are other people who, unfortunately, have to abide by the law, and even if they do abide by the law, they'll probably sick the FBI on them, like the parents that were concerned about their kids' education, and they get classified as a terrorist organization, while the people who classified them as a terrorist organization give money to bail out BLM terrorists.
Right.
So, but that's what it is. But there was a rumor, an allegation. We have to preface everything with it. There's an allegation that there was a little, I don't know what we could even euphemistically call it, as a little tete-a-tete confrontation or something after the meeting between Michelle Dion and Laura Washington, who was enraged because she didn't support her and tried to cast aspersions on Michelle and twist the narrative, because this is what they're good at. You don't support veterans, but I heard somebody interceded.
Yes, allegedly, Pamela
Allegedly.
Pamela Liberté said, no, she supported you. She just wanted it to be fair. That was the, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But, this is what we go through. I mean, we have the haves and the have-nots. We have the chosen and the unchosen.
Yeah.
The blessed and the unblessed,
Yeah, but remember, you can't oppose the coven.
Right.
The coven.
The coven.
The coven. And if you oppose the coven, then they're going to come after you. Look, they've had a concentrated 3-year effort to get Michelle out of the council.
Yes, they have.
Because they want anybody who supports the people out.
Out.
They want a bunch of bobbleheads like them who are going to take care of their friends and only their friends and wrap everything in a cloak. This is like our federal government. If you don't spout the party line, you're immediately branded as, a Putin sympathizer, a terrorist, a white supremacist, because you don't agree with them. you know, unfortunately in this country for them, we do have a constitution, and people are getting fed up with these people because this is what, you know, Laura Washington is offended because somebody has the audacity to have a different opinion or even ask a question. And in this case, the individual wasn't opposed to veterans. And then it went on to WSAR, Radio Pravda.
Yep.
Radio Pravda, the other talking head that they got at Radio Pravda, allegedly said we have counselors who were anti-veteran.
Right. Right.
That's, you know, if BS was bricks, these people, they love to give unfounded rumors. And
yet we're the ones that are held accountable every time we say anything.
Yeah, we're held accountable. But, you know, see, your facts have nothing to do with anything
Right.
we do. We've always
Right.
said that. You know, Washington has this ability to wrap everything in his cloak of wokeness. If you're against me, you're against mom and apple pie, and you're a terrorist, and there's something wrong with you because you're anti-veteran, or you're anti-this, or you're a pro something really bad, or you're a Putinist or a Stalinist. While they go along their merry way and ignore everything and take care of their friends and screw the public. You know, with all the stuff nobody cares about the people who can't make their rent, okay? So while we're on that, I got a call from a concerned citizen, and he got my number, and he said, what, you know, well, he said, I want to talk. He says, I live in the South End. I live on a narrow street. And these people are buying houses all around me, and they're putting cones on the street with caution tape because they're bringing in equipment to work in the house the next day, and nobody can park. And I complain. He said, "Oh, I got a right to do that." No, they don't. You can't block a street when
That's
you're not
right.
there. I mean, I've had work near my house. They were working on County Street, and I went out there, and there was a sign on the thing saying tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. you got to be clear.
And that's city approved.
That's right. But the city supposedly told this individual it's okay for them to block your street, even though it's in the middle of the night. Then he complained about, he said, and this isn't an allegation, I was told this. Granted, it's secondhand information, it's hearsay, but the individual who called me alleged it. And I will assume that this individual can prove it because I called him on. Then he said, they bought the property, my driveway's an easement way to another thing, and now they bought the 3-family behind me. And now I got to listen to people driving at 2 o'clock in the morning with their radios blasting into the back. And then he alleged, which is something very unique, I never thought about this. We're talking about this market rate housing and how it jumped up to 1,700. And supposedly, he said that the people inhabiting some of these buildings are actually people from Brockton who are in public housing. And they get their check for $1,800 subsidized, so they're coming down here and they can make the market rate.
Right.
So we're bringing in not yuppies who are going to help the city. Like I said, who from Boston's going to come down here and live down? You've got to be nuts. We're bringing down people from their subsidized housing. We have to check into that.
That must be Paul's program. Moving on?
Yeah.
We're going to move them on to we'll move them on to Brockton, and we'll send them a check for $1,800.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And the other thing he said was that the house it's a 3-family house, but now it's got 4 mailboxes. He said, I'm wondering why. Is the owner of this place going to say it's an owner-occupied building, even though he doesn't live there? All these questions, but nobody checks anything in Fall River, which segues into my next one. Here's a nice headline. Hold it up a little closer. You might be able to see that. Yeah, I think you can.
It appears that the city of Fall River was duped. They were duped? How were they duped?
They were duped by a nation that doesn't exist.
Right.
But we are far from alone. But we're not We're in a very exclusive category. Only a few cities got this. It appears Florida was duped by a nation that doesn't exist. But the scholarship city, I guess we got a scholarship for not knowing geography or anything, is far from the only one. Mayor Coogan signed a proclamation in January of 22, which is, a
Last
year
year.
ago.
Yeah.
I hate to mispronounce words, but some of these Indian words, there's just too many. Kailasas, Kailasa, apostrophe, SPH, and then
That's
the other word.
supreme potential of Hinduism or something
Yeah,
like
supreme,
that.
yeah, supreme,
Potentate.
yeah, potentate of Hinduism or something.
Which doesn't
and
exist.
the other one is Nitra Hana, whatever. Day. You can read the article on the Fall River Reporter, and according to CBS News, and
We made national news once again.
despite having a website, it's not a real nation. It's the brainchild of Swami. Oh, whenever they preface their name with Swami, you got a big problem. Okay? Swami, whatever that name is, who is a notorious scam artist and fugitive from India, who has been running from rape charges since 2019.
So Paul supports rapists.
And then it says, as far from the being alone, there are a few. It said a few other communities that have done this. Again, this city is clueless. I mean, this guy, he'll sign anything if he thinks it'll make him look good.
Right.
Now he's in, well, it's Hinduism. There might be 3 Hindus that might vote for me if I sign this proclamation. They don't check anything, which segues into my next thing. Channel 12 was talking about how their investigative reporters were just amazed how nothing in Fall River ever gets solved when it comes to a city employee doing something wrong.
Yep.
They said, it's amazing. All those drugs in a drawer, 2 years later, nothing. We can't find out that all the records are missing. Everything is gone. We can't solve this big mystery. Amazing, huh? Maybe we don't want to solve it. And just like the 22 windows, we can't solve, even though Kenny Pacheco knew who the culprit was and refused to say that. We can't solve anything when it's going to bring somebody in the city under some scrutiny, and maybe they'd have to fire them, just like the guy who filled out an illegal overtime form. That's a felony.
Right. And he should have been fired.
And he should have been fired. But was he fired?
No.
No.
He kept his head down, kept his mouth shut, and everyone forgot about it, except
because
us.
this is what the mayor does. He's got his virtual reality glasses on, just like his state of the city. No crime, no drugs, nothing that's important. And what was his three accomplishments he put down? My accomplishments, well, I fixed the traffic pattern. Number one, you didn't fix it.
Right.
Secondly, you're telling me after 3.5 years in a city that's number one in crime, has a school system that's ranked 335th in the state out of 351 cities and towns, has a massive drug problem, what you have to point to is that you worked on a traffic pattern. And then his next one was...
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing was one. What was the other ridiculous thing that he said he did? Oh, the Flint.
The Flint, yes.
He said that, well, number one, apparently he didn't major in English or math. Because an accomplishment is something that you've done, not something that you've promised to do.
Right.
Last time I checked, when you say mission accomplished, as Bush did.
I was going to say, we had a president who said that it wasn't accomplished.
Well, politicians are good at saying they've done things that they didn't do.
Exactly.
And this guy, 3.5 years, how pathetic is this?
Well, I'll give you another
A traffic pattern Something in the Flint that, by the way, everybody in the Flint is opposed to, and the head of the Flint Association knows nothing about it, and went before the council and said nothing's been done in the Flint, is listed as one of his 3 major, these are the best he could get. A traffic pattern, something in the Flint that he didn't do, and affordable housing, in which now we've got 23 units and a promise, not an accomplishment, of 40 more units to give us 63, when Somerset, that's 1/5 of our size, is building 64, and he thinks that's adequate. I'm going to tell you something. Under the definition of dysfunctionally pathetic, they're going to have this picture. No more definition. That's going to be the definition. Because after 3.5 years of being a mayor in a city that's been #1 in crime, you don't even mention it in your state of the city. Because, you know, Paul Coogan is campaigning on just pretend it doesn't exist. Crime doesn't exist. Drug addiction doesn't exist. Affordable housing is not a problem, even though the entire country knows it's a problem. This guy is just, I've never seen, look, I've been around a long time. I've seen some real corkers from mayors. And I remember when Will Flanagan gave a State of the City address that said the city was in great shape, and the next year he was getting recalled because we had an $8 million deficit. And when I listened to this speech about all the money and how flush we were, even though we know that the stabilization fund hasn't changed much from Jazel.
Right.
And that free cash, there's a lot of money missing in that free cash that they're gonna account for. But the reality is that this reminded me a lot of what Flanagan said. Oh yeah, we're in great shape, and then all of a sudden, oh God, we got an $8 million deficit. I mean, look, this was sad. It's sad. And I mean, the people of the city gotta rise up. I'm getting calls now from this guy in the South End. And you know what I told him? To go backtrack a little bit. When I told him when he was complaining about all the stuff that's happened to his neighbors, I said, well, your neighbors upset too? I said, yeah, good. Go around, get together with your neighbors. I want you to get a whole group together. We'll go down and we'll talk to you. And we're going to try to get a group from the United Faith Council, the Flint people. We got a lot of people that Paul pretends that this isn't a problem, just like
Right.
bullet holes.
Right.
Well, I said, we will act. CAG, the Citizens Alliance for Accountable Government, like we brought people together to call back Flanagan. We'll bring you down. Go to the city council and let these bobbleheads who do nothing but throw money around, remind them that there are people who are having many problems with making their rent and with their neighborhoods actually not being uplifted by this, but actually getting worse because of the people that are going into some of these units. And these are, obviously, we've been told about this, but I told the guy, we're with you. You bring these people together, we'll give you a platform.
That's right. We'll bring you right on the show if we have to.
That's right. We'll bring them on the show.
You know, I have to bring up something else from Paul's State of the City address.
Oh, please do. There's so much.
I know. Or I should call it the State of the Lie address. Or the State of Fantasyland. I can't figure it out
The
anymore.
state of the virtual reality.
Yeah, the State of Virtual Reality. His Moving On program, okay? Our investigator, who you know who that is,
Yep.
asked several housing authority employees and managers, what is the Moving On program? What does it entail? They all looked at him befuddled. They have never heard of it. They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They have no idea what it is, nothing. So it went up to a manager, a big manager, probably the executive director or associate director or something like that. Crickets. Nothing.
Look, another Paul the Promiser.
Right.
My accomplishment, because I said I was going to do something in the Flint, that's already an accomplishment. He's done absolutely nothing.
Right.
23 units in a city of this size. And I said, I did the comparison of
I wanna know
poverty
where they
levels.
are.
Yeah, well, and I want to know who's really in those things,
Right.
okay? But the reality is, as you said, moving on. That's not me. A more appropriate name would have been throw them out.
Right.
You're going to take somebody out of a home and stick them in a flop house. One room, they're going to get a room. That's where, that's what was Jerry's Lodging.
I remember Jerry's Lodging.
Jerry's Lodging. That's where all the derelicts went. You had one room, you shared a bathroom with 100 people, and that's where all the people that were fundamentally derelicts. And then you had the other one down the south end, Redwood Manor. Another one-room flop house.
Yep. Redwood Manor is now an assisted living facility.
Yeah. So you go. So Paul's is to give them an intermediate step before they go into tent city. We're gonna take them from a home that they went on a waiting list in public housing because of their low income. Now, obviously, they can't afford anything in this society because they've already said it's $10,000 off the top of your income for inflation.
Right.
Okay? So now you're going to take somebody who waited 8 years to get into public housing, throw them into a single room, put a time limit on that, and then throw them out. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? They can't afford $1,700 rent. You took them out of public housing. What are you going to do? Are you going to stick them in one of these other units like they did with the Brockton people? Who knows? Listen, all his plans, when you look at them and try to, make sense of them, they're all BS. It's political, it's campaign rhetoric. Because all you got to do, if you want to evaluate, and I don't want to hear COVID, because during COVID, Taunton revamped their entire city organization. He did nothing except, he should have got his accomplishments. He should have listed all the movies, all the parades, all the masks he handed out, because that's all he did. But that's not when you're the mayor, you're supposed to be the leader of the city. You're supposed to be committed to making this city a better place for its citizens to live in. So your accomplishments are going on 3.5 years in office. The best you could do was traffic patents, a Flint initiative that so far has gotten nothing done, like everything he produced, and affordable housing, which now you pretended you did something. You actually had the audacity to put that in writing, that you've only got 23 units in a city of over 90,000 people, and you're promising, you don't have them, 40. And then he puts the total like it's a big deal, 63. Drive across the bridge, a town that's got 18,000, barely over 18,000 people, is building a 64-unit complex.
And do you know where that complex is located? Right next to the shopping center. They can literally walk across the street and get to Stop and Shop, get to Ocean State Job Lot, get to Home Depot, get to a Kentucky Fried Chicken, can get to a Burger King. So talk about proper planning.
Yeah.
Imagine that proper planning.
I wish Ray Milland was still alive, because we could get him here from the Wizard of Oz in his scarecrow outfit and put a set of glasses on like this and have him sing, "If I Only Had a Brain." Because this is bad.
Yeah.
3.5 years, you're running on this. You're running on this. The city's in great financial shape. No, it's not. The developers are in great financial shape. Kenny Fiola's in great financial shape. Carol Fiola's in great financial shape. All the regular players and some new ones from out of town are all in great financial shape. But the city is not in great financial shape. We still have a poverty rate of 19%. Our per capita income has barely moved in the last 10 years. It's up to 28,000. It used to be 25 or 24. So nothing, no appreciable change in a per capita. Household has gone up a little bit, but that's because the riches got richer. So it's a median. So you look at that, and if you know how to analyze numbers, it's the per capita that counts. The per capita is actually, if you look at it in real value dollars, has gone down drastically. So, but again, this guy believes in creating a fantasy world. He's got Fantasy Fall River, We're pretending there's no crime. We're pretending there's no drugs. We're pretending everything's beautiful. But we got trash outside his window until somebody calls up. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry. We always normally lead with a 50 gray.
Yep.
There was a 50 gray, but it was kids shooting BB guns at cars on North Main Street. And that was reported today.
Yep.
So, I mean, Paul doesn't care. Paul says, no bullet hole in my house. No trash in my yard.
No BB in my windshield.
No BB in my windshield. Don't worry about it. It don't exist. Everybody, matter of fact, you know something? I think everybody that wants to vote for this guy should get a free pair of these glasses.
I think so.
I think everybody should
and
get a free
it should come out of
pair.
Paul's campaign finance
That's
account.
right. Yeah, and
Because,
that
you know, I've
campaign
been-
finance is a very interesting
Yes,
place
it
to
was.
visit, isn't it?
Yes, it was. I couldn't believe the number of city employees and school department employees that gave him money.
What was the number?
Oh, I can't even remember
Was
now.
it 800 and
No, there was $8 million. given.
$8 million given to him
Yeah.
from school employees.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I just got a text this morning. Didn't even have time to print it out yet.
Yep.
But let me see what I got in this
And you know,
text.
the thing is that people start looking at those numbers and they start saying, does that mean they have to give this money to keep their job? And that's been an allegation which has been through many administrations.
Well, it's
not just this one.
It's not an allegation, it's a fact.
you know.
Because I can tell you, I knew a guy, and I'll swear to this under oath that they give me a lie detector test. He was a bus driver a long time ago. Used to play handball with him. And one day, you know, obviously at that time I was still, you know, part of the union, running the
Right.
union and everything else. So he complained to me one day about the fact that every year he got 10 tickets to the mayor's Christmas party. And he had to sell them or give them the money anyway. And he says, you know, that's a lot of money. And he said, but I get them every year. So I said, well, he got you the job, didn't he? He said, yeah. And he said, that's the price you're going to pay for the rest of the year, as long as he's in.
That's right.
You got to pay that, because otherwise they may get, but this is, I just got this from, it's from the discussion to vote and to approve facility operate. This is from Ken Pacheco, Chief Operator. All the new jobs: Director of Maintenance Service, Director of Safety and Security Services, Director of Transportation Services, Director of Campus Services, Director of Custodial Services, Assistant Director of Custodial Services. And then they have all these new positions too, and some of these are on the campaign finance list if you look at them. So, is it pay to play with Paul? Seems to be.
Oh, looks that way.
Looks
but
that way.
But again, it's also looked that way with a lot of other administrations. So
Never to this extent.
right, I was going to say, but it hasn't been this bad.
4 of those jobs are coming with a $100,000
Right.
price tag.
Right.
And these jobs were not there before, and they were running fine.
And how does he to justify all of these new jobs in city and school size?
It's a personnel issue.
No.
No, that's what he says, though.
Yeah, I know, but he does it because he says it's a reorganization for
Yeah.
more efficiency.
But it's not more
No.
efficiency because he admits in the next breath it's because of personnel issues.
Right.
The guy who was doing the oil changes now became a supervisor and's got a $100,000 job when
Right.
he was working illegally on city time.
Right.
So that's the reorganizations.
And these are the things that we're looking at. I mean, people say that politics is corrupt, and we know that there's plenty of corruption in politics, okay? But don't we deserve better?
Yeah. I mean, look, this guy just throws money around. This is another one I got. Collins Construction, Phase 3. I don't know what the other first two phases. $2,096,753.
And Rebecca Collins has made consistent $1,000 contributions each campaign cycle.
$2 million for one phase. How many phases have they've already gone through? 2, because this is Phase 3.
Yep.
And so how much is that going to cost? Do we know about it? No.
Well, I want to thank you all for watching. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday.